Exclusive on Pod Hub Network. Your city, your podcast.
To the delight of this crowd, McClendon marches down the dugout steps with first base.
McCutcheon's throw. The runner breaks to the plate. Here's the throw. Wow. He is out. The Buccos win. That ball's hit well to left center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucs. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. Here's my co-host, Jim Rosati. It's Wednesday morning. It is Roansy Day. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. It is Roansy Day. It's Roansy Day, and it's also, I don't think we even said this when we were getting ready for all this stuff, but it's our last Starbucks of the regular season, DiNardo.
You know, that it is. So let me ask you something. I know the answer, but let me ask you so everyone else can hear it. Bittersweet? Oh, Jim, here we go again. You're you're frozen. Hold on. You know how this works. Give yourself there you are. There's Jim. He's back.
We good?
All right, Jim. Cool. Bittersweet.
I think we are getting to the point where it's actually more sweet than bitter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the last few weeks have been terrible baseball. And even the Pirates aren't even playing that bad. It's just like I just don't really want to watch them anymore.
It's just very uninspiring.
Yeah, that's exactly, that's a good way to put it.
When last night I put out there, of course, half facetiously, but you get the lineup card and you see Cole Tucker, Kevin Newman. At that point, I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow's Roansy Day. Just wake me up then. Like, I'm good. There's not much more I really need to see from this team, but I obviously, of course, did watch. And the Pirates won, so I guess there's that. I mean, anytime you can beat the Reds and the Cubs, not that the Cubs had any, inspiring playoff hopes or anything, but it's the Cubs. So, you beat the Cubs.
Yes.
Good job.
Yeah. Yesterday's game actually had a little bit of intrigue because it was the anybody who had the over on the season win total. The Pirates hit it last night. So congratulations to everybody who bet over 58.5. You won.
Yeah. That's a good call. Not for real money, unfortunately, but I did pick the over on my win totals. I picked Tyler and myself picked 61. Yeah. There's one person on North Shore 9 who didn't choose the over. As a matter of fact, it was quite under that number. I believe the number was 54 that Mr. Negative said. Jim Rosati, I believe, picked 54 wins this year. What an idiot.
You know what it was? I wasn't expecting this end of year surge by Anthony Alford.
This end of year surge. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It was Anthony Alford that just screwed all of your plans. Man, do you really hate him?
But seriously, who would have thought that the Pirates, after trading Adam Frazier, would basically be playing better baseball than the Padres?
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, I'm speechless on that. Regardless of Adam Frazier, who would have thought that? I think. Keep Adam Frazier and give the Pirates like Starling Marte and give them, I don't know, Cole. And they probably still wouldn't be better than the Padres. But yet somehow or another they were.
It was crazy. I mean, we even had an 11-game losing streak, I think, sprinkled in there.
It was tough times right after that trade deadline. Yeah. But like you said, you brought it up and we talked about it. The Pirates won how many series at the end? Mm-hmm. They were actually as uninspiring, right? And as much as we talked about with the Pirates, there's not too much to really watch anymore for. they were winning games. So, like, there was something in there, and then and so, like, the win total. I think for some people, even though like 100 losses is still very possible, I think in a lot of people's minds there's going to be a lot more Jim Rosati than there was at the end of this year. And somehow or another, the Pirates squeaked some wins. I mean, they signed Yoshi, and as I put out there before, the before and after winning percentage with Yoshi was like 100 points. I'm just saying. I mean, obviously you got to re-sign Yoshi.
Yeah, I think that's probably been one of the biggest things down the stretch is, Yoshi providing a really, really good power option in the lineup. And like you mentioned, they've been winning series, and it's just when they get to that final game, they blow up. But yeah, I think we went what, 4 series in a row? Won 4 series in a row there in September.
Yeah.
So
4 in a row, and then I think it was 6 out of 9.
Okay. And mostly against like contending teams.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they were beating the
At the
Cardinals,
time.
they were beating the Reds. Yeah.
Yep.
The Brewers, they were beating the Brewers.
Yeah. And like something that's kind of crazy. Okay. I mean, we were joking and facetiously making fun and dunking a little bit on the Padres in that sense. But what's really crazy, I mean, think about the beginning of the season. Think about our over and unders, and we're talking about that NL West division, right? And our picks and wins and such. The Pirates are closer to the Padres as far as like winning percentage, right? The Pirates are closer to the Padres than the Padres are to the Giants. Like, let that settle in. That's crazy as well. That's how far that gap is.
Nobody would have predicted that.
No. It was all coming down to like, it's going to be the Dodgers, it's going to be the Padres. It's probably going to be the Dodgers, but Padres would be very, very close. Probably maybe both winning over 100 games this year. And the Pirates are actually closer to the Padres, and the Padres are to the Dodgers. And not even the Dodgers, the Giants of all teams. Just blows your mind. Yeah. But enough about those terrible. I mean, imagine having Preller as your GM. What garbage.
Man, just briefly talk about the Padres. I just have no idea of like what happened to them. I mean, the pitching staff just completely got decimated.
That's what happened to them. Yeah,
it's crazy because we went into this year talking about just how deep their pitching staff was, and it just all went down the toilet. We were talking about like, and then you got Mackenzie Gore just sitting in AAA. Well, Mackenzie Gore is getting shelled right now in the minors. Like, what happened to the Dodgers, the Padres pitching? I have no idea. It was a weird year for them.
Yeah, Darvish started off really hot. He's been terrible. Blake Snell's been mediocre output all year. Yeah. He has some really nice flashes, some bad, but yeah, you're right. Like, their pitching staff was just. And it's crazy because like that's what they built up. They had everything else. They needed pitching, and they went out and they got it. They didn't settle for just like okay. They went out and got it, and it did nothing for them. It did absolutely. I mean, you had Jake Arrieta starting for them. I mean, put that in perspective. Yeah, Jake Arrieta wasn't even good enough for like any other team. DFA'd, passed around, and the Padres of all teams like, oh, we need you for starts. Come on over, Jake.
A team that gave up 8 runs to a Pirates lineup that started off Cole Tucker, Kevin Newman, DFA, Jake Arrieta.
Yeah. So anyway, Jim, we got a big show today. You know why we have a big show?
Why do we have a big show today?
Not only is Roansy Contreras making his MLB debut against the Chicago Cubs today. Not that in itself is big enough to have a big show today. But I feel like we need to set the record straight on a few things, Jim. I don't know if this, Pirates Twitter has been bored. It's definitely been bored. We've talked about that. But there's been a lot of, I just feel like, bad opinions going out there. And I mean, some of them are just bad opinions. Some of them are just, why are we even discussing and talking this? I don't know. And then people are going back, right, left. It's time to set the record straight. It's time to talk about these things, put things in perspective. Let the fans hear what they need to hear.
Yeah, Jesus. Where do we even start?
Where do we
I
even
think-
start?
I think the main thing is like, yeah, I mean, definitely Pirates Twitter is bored, right? I mean, you can tell that. I logged on to Twitter yesterday and I read like 3 tweets and I was just like, I'm done. I was like, I'm already over this entire day.
Right.
And it's not even like things that were just like, I mean, they were just things that I was just like, what is happening? And I think the biggest thing is you have, and like this isn't criticism necessarily on anybody, but you've got some Pirates fans on Twitter who have, you can tell they're a little bit older, right? And by older, I'm not even meaning old. I'm meaning like, maybe they're in their 30s, 40s, that but they've been a fan of the Pirates for, over 25, 30 years, right? So you've got that section of fans, and then you've got a section of fans where they're maybe 25 years old and younger, right? And like during their prime years of like being able to follow this baseball team, the Pirates were actually pretty good for a while, right?
Yeah.
So like they actually, I don't know what it is. I think there's this barrier between, you've got these younger Pirates fans and they like have this optimism about them. And then you've got fans like me. I don't know why I'm referring myself as an older Pirates fan. I'm 34 years old, but you've got fans who like lived through the whole 19 straight losing seasons and all that.
Right.
And I feel like all of us are just like completely miserable, and we like just hate everything. Like we went through that 3-year stretch and that was fun, but it's like we still remember just how awful things could be, right?
Yes.
And so I feel like that's one of the reason why you've got some butting heads, is because you've got these people who are just like uber optimistic, like I said, which is, it's fine. I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. It's just, you got a ton of people who are super duper optimistic, and then you've got people who lived through 20 straight losing seasons, and it's like, where is this optimism coming from? It's like, where the Pirates, whatever, like something's going to happen to just screw all of this stuff up, right? Because we saw it over and over and over and over again. Now, I don't think we've ever seen a rebuild quite like this, right? So I will say that, like in those 20
That's
losing
fair.
years, there was never a complete rebuild effort like we're seeing right now, right? So it's like it's a little bit different of a situation. But we went all this time where every single person who was supposed to be the savior of this team, or supposed to come up here and do great, they just all flopped. They like all did, every one of them.
Here's and maybe it goes to your point. Not every one of them, and the ones who didn't was probably the Andrew McCutchens, right? The Garrett Coles. So the people who have lived more recently, as you're talking about, they've seen more or less this optimistic viewpoints come to fruition.
Yeah, I guess I'm referring more to the Chad Hermansons.
Well, then, right. So that's what they didn't experience.
The Chad Hermansons and the Jermaine Allensworths, and even the Chris Bensons to an effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
#1 overall pick, and then you get Bullington and Van Benskoden and Burnett and Bradley. They kind of picked a bunch of pitchers there. So all of that, it's like I feel like a lot of people missed all that, and it's like prospects sometimes just suck. Like they can be really good in the minors, and sometimes they just suck. It's Major League Baseball is hard, right? But like again, I can understand some of the optimism just because of we have accrued and accumulated a bunch of talent, like I said, that we've never really seen before. It's just, and I'm not going to name names, but like when and I love the guy on Twitter, but it's like when I log into Twitter, I'm like, and I see Liver Piguero can be Acuna light. I'm just like, okay, it's ready to log off, right?
Time to log off.
Let's temper some expectations here. Ronald Acuna Jr. is like a top 3 player in baseball. Let's pump the brakes a bit.
Yeah. So I think too, this isn't to call people out. this isn't that. Maybe North Shore 9 of like 2 years ago and before probably would have done that. But we've calmed down a bit. We're not as pesky and ready to fight everyone, right? We're not attacking Madden and DK every day and such. But like with that said, right. There's been things going around on Twitter that just like each week it kind of builds up, and I'm like, we just got to talk about this, because it's not only that we have to talk about it, I feel like for therapy reasons, right? Because we're tired of seeing it and we just need to get this off our chests. But I feel like some people need to actually hear this and also put in perspective. And this is why we're saying this stuff. And this may be also why they feel like they're getting attacked or whatever, right? So just in that perspective, right? We're hearing a lot of like, this guy's this light and this guy could be this. Everyone is going to be just great players. And we know realistically, like that's not going to happen, right? And this is why too, like I just feel there's a lot of people putting out like the predictions of like not even like what next year's lineup's going to be, but like the 2023 lineup and the 2024 lineup and 2025. And I just look at that and I just find that pointless. Like that's my biggest thing. I just find it pointless. Whether you're optimistic about things, pessimistic about things, whatever it may be, to me, that's the most pointless exercise there is. And do you know why? Because the reason I like what the lineups even are, it's like, well, this guy's our best prospect at this position. This guy's our best prospect at this position. So like, what are you really doing? I can look at the top 100 list too. I can look at the Pirates top 30 list too. And if all we're doing is putting in the best player at that position and within the pipeline, and then saying, and if this guy's not ready by then, I could see check notes. Oh, this guy's the second best prospect. That guy putting in instead. Like to me, it's just a pointless exercise in that perspective. And then the other perspective is there's really only going to be Brian Hayes and Brian Reynolds in this lineup, like in the future. Like that's what you can pencil in. Everything else is interchangeable. So you're banking on 6 more prospects, basically. You can't do that. Like you just can't, right? And that's the other part of that exercise is why it's pointless, is because it ain't going to happen. Do you know why the Pirates farm system is looked upon as a top farm system? It is not because they have elite of elite, can't miss prospects. It is because they have a lot of talent and just a plethora of it, right? The reason the Pirates farm is so good is because they've mitigated risk, right? These prospects aren't going to work out. So there might be a chance someone else does, right? If you give me, I need to fill 6 positions, right? And you give me 6 players, chances are 2 of them will make it. But if I have 30 players, I might be able to gain 6 out of that. That's what makes the Pirates system good, is because they're deep. They have a lot of opportunities. So we can't just pencil in the best prospect at each position, because there's still a good chance O'Neal Cruz won't be a good MLB player. Now, I cross my fingers that doesn't happen, but there's still a good chance. Like Peguero could not make it to the majors. He could hit AA. He could hit AAA and just stall out. Like something I want to bring up too, and I'll do this slowly throughout the show. Let's go back to 2015, the top 100. This isn't just like the top of the Pirates. We're talking about some of these players. These players aren't even like the top 100 prospect lists, that we're penciling in. Here's the top 10 prospects of 2015. Byron Buxton, number 1 overall. What's he done?
Super talented when he's healthy, right? But gets hurt all the time.
Back in 2015, you're probably thinking, well, we're going to the championship in 2018 because of Byron Buxton, right? Corey Seager, Lucas Giolito, Julio Urias, J.P. Crawford, Joey Gallo, Tyler Glasnow, Yoan Moncada, Brendan Rodgers, Dansby Swanson. That's the top 10 prospects in baseball. It's a mixed bag. I mean, any one of the, like what we're hearing about Acuna Light, who's the number 70 something prospect, what we're hearing about with O'Neal Cruz and such. They're not even in this stratosphere. Again, trying to just kind of put some perspective on this.
Well, the other thing too, I'm looking at that list too. If we're looking at like Nick Kingham was the number 74 prospect in baseball.
There you go.
3 years later, he's in Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the top 10. Brendan Rodgers. I mean, mediocre. Dansby Swanson. Right. Mediocre.
Alan Hansen was in that top 100 too.
Alan Hansen. I mean, Tyler Glass. Now we've said enough about him. Number 7 prospect. I mean, sure, he started to hit his stride. Now he's out. I mean, if you look at his career in total, you're number 7 prospect. I mean, if this is 2021 right now, and he's the number 7 prospect, I mean, all you'll be hearing is, well, we have Tyler Glass now. He's going to be an ace, right? He's going to lock this down, championship. What has Tyler Glass now done? What has J.P. Crawford done? Like Julio Urias, I know, like shoulder injuries, come back. He's been solid. Nothing great. Giolito had his struggles. He's now found some success. Seager's been injured. Buxton's always injured. We'll move on a little bit here. But like again, kind of put in perspective. That's the top 10.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's why the talent accumulation is so important, right? And I said that's the one thing that this team has is there's no like top 10 prospect on this team, right? But they do have a lot of guys who are either in that top 100 or just outside of it. And so you do hope that you find at least enough people to hit that can help out your team, right? But as far as yeah, like I mean, the top 10 prospects are all not going to just be your starters in 3 years. Just doesn't really work that way. I mean, especially pitching. I mean, Mitch Keller was a top 5 prospect, I think, in baseball at one point, and look at him now. So,
Mr. Elite Control. I mean, he was getting all kinds of hype.
It was one of those things where, like, Mitch Keller is a future ace, right? Doesn't really look like that anymore. So that's the biggest thing. Just like pump the brakes a little bit. Like I get the optimism. There's plenty to be optimistic about because they've accrued a ton of talent, right? But when we start making lineups and say this lineup, would be, and again, I'm not picking on anybody, but like this lineup would be, super exciting in 2023. It's just like, no, that's not how it works, right? And like this is a team that they're gonna have to go out there and they're gonna have to plug some holes with free agents, right? So that's gonna be the biggest part. You look at that 2013 team, right? And like how much of that team was homegrown, right? You had your stars and that's kind of that's how you make a team, right? If you're a small market team, you need to at least have some homegrown stars, right? Because you can't afford to go out and get those guys, right? So you have to have Andrew McCutchen basically come out of your system, right? I don't know if the Pirates have an Andrew McCutchen in their system. I just don't. I don't think they do.
We've discussed that though,
right?
Yeah, that's the one downfall if you're looking to this type of rebuild and such is it's there isn't like that star at least yet.
Yeah, I mean it's possible because again, like if you look at Andrew McCutchen, like Andrew McCutchen was never a top 10 prospect, right? He kind of hit his stride once he got to the majors. He just developed this elite hitter, right? So you got Andrew McCutchen who was excellent. You had Starling Marte who was very good. So you had kind of those two guys anchoring that 2013 team, right? And then you plugged in Russell Martin. You plugged in Clint Barmas at shortstop who couldn't hit, but he was a great fielder. Neil Walker was a great complementary player, right? Travis Snyder was on that team. I mean, so like Pedro Alvarez, was just kind of your bopper, right? So those guys were homegrown, but then a lot of the talent that helped out that team was acquired elsewhere, especially on the pitching staff. Burnett, Charlie Morton, Wandy Rodriguez was started 12 games that year.
Don't remind me of Wandy.
Yeah. So it's like you had a lot of guys who came in from outside the organization who helped out this team. And the homegrown talent was there, and the homegrown talent made up probably half of the team. But you don't win in 2013 without Burnett and Liriano and Martin.
For sure.
Right.
You're right. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because like that's the next point of this whole exercise. The big thing that I take away from it is, again, just the fact that it's kind of pointless. Like, we're just picking out our best, closest prospect and putting him in there. But like the secondary thing is, when I look at that and I'm just like, okay, cool. So we're still not like getting any free agents. Like, we're still not spending money. Cool. Because that's not how I want 2023 to look like. I don't want 2023 to be nothing but the homegrown players. There clearly needs to be some free agency. We need to do better. So I'm disappointed that that's the lineup.
Right. I mean, a lineup of all homegrown players in 2023 means we have like a $30 million payroll.
Correct.
Like it's not good. We need to go out there and spend some money and make the team better, elsewhere.
Right.
So yeah, it's just a futile exercise, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like I said, like that's just to it. We haven't penciled in future lineups. We haven't done that, and the reason for that is just because, right? Like it's a pointless exercise. It means nothing. You're gonna look back in 2 years and say, "Well, that was silly." So, kind of like, right? What's the point? If you want to, again, like, and this isn't to be pessimistic. This isn't just to poo-poo on the Pirates and the system and stuff. But I think that, again, like, that's the perspective you got to put in. The reason you want to be optimistic, the reason you want to be excited, isn't the fact that here's what the 2023 lineup is. It's not going to be that. The reason you want to get excited is because there's a lot of players. Like, there's a lot of talent in this organization. We're not sure what's going to come and pan out, but there is a lot of talent. You can certainly be optimistic about that. And hopefully, right, they're going to build upon it. There's going to be another top draft pick this upcoming year. There's going to be international dollars opening back up again. And maybe there's a trade or two coming, but like this is definitely the time, as we've been hammering, that the rebuild's done. Like the fire sales are gone. There's really nothing much left to overhaul. It's now the building process. So, hopefully you are going to start seeing that. But right, like that's the part to be optimistic about. And you absolutely can. So I don't know if we're done with that part, because there's still some other things that's been grinding my gears.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Keep going.
And I said we'll kind of say this throughout I wanted to kind of say, not throw 100 names all at once, but kind of throughout the show. So the top 100 prospects in 2015 once again. So number 11, Trey Turner, awesome. 12, Orlando Arcia, Rafael Devers, Nomar Mazara, Steven Matz, Alex Reyes, Aaron Judge, Franklin Barreto, Sean Newcomb, Jose Barrios. That's the top 10, 11 through 20. So again, think of the names, right? Think of the prospect status. It's a mixed bag right there. Okay, so moving forward, the next thing that's kind of bothered me, Cole Tucker. What? What's that smirk? that might be a clip. Why are we now at the oh my gosh, I don't know. I think we might need to see more Cole Tucker next year. Look what he's doing in this past 7 at-bats. So these 7 at-bats, oh my God, look what he's doing. In the last 3 at-bats, Jim, he's 2 for 3. I think we need to keep Cole Tucker. Look, he hit that home run. I think we need to keep Cole Tucker next year. What are we doing? Why are we keeping Cole Tucker? I'm going to lump Anthony Alford in here in a second too. But this is more or less Cole Tucker. What are we doing about Cole Tucker? Why are we now like, oh my God, I think Cole Tucker I think he deserves a shot next year. We need to see even more.
Cole Tucker's batting 235, 281, 342 in September, by the way. So that's his hot streak.
Yes, it's not good. It is not good.
It's good for a 66 weighted runs created plus in baseball.
I pointed this out yesterday. So this doesn't include last night's game, which was an 0-for-4 game. But this whole, and here's the thing, like this hot stretch of Cole Tucker, if you may, is 35 at-bats, where he has 11 hits, and now, top of my head, I'm trying to think, I think it was a 585 BABIP. Like, so off of these 35 plate appearances, which is completely BABIP fueled, right? We're saying, holy hell, Cole Tucker. He hasn't hit in his entire life. But now, because there's like this 35 at-bat stretch where a lot of luck came in.
He's still not even really hitting.
No, he also isn't. I believe when I pulled it up too, it was like a. I gotta pull it up again now because it's gonna bother me. But yes, it also, even with that, it wasn't like it was superb. So it started from 917. So let's do 917, and you know what? I'll even exclude last night just so the numbers were the same. So from 917 to the 27,
11-day, 10-day stretch.
He was batting 353, 150 WRC plus. No power. I mean, he did have the home run, I guess. But 30K strikeout rate. Yeah. Highly BABIP fuel. Over 500. So, again. So, just even in that little stretch there. A lot of luck. But what's Cole Tucker to date? Like, he was in AAA all year. All year, he couldn't hit. Comes to the majors, couldn't hit. He's found some luck in these, like you said, like 11 games. Okay, I'm done with Cole Tucker. He has shown me that he is not a major leaguer. He makes some nice plays on defense. Not as much as I anticipated. I'll put it that way. But like last night, great play at second base. Great play.
Yep.
But where we talk about like the glove, like is the glove enough? Like with Hayes, we say he could not hit to the degree where the glove will play. I mean, Cole Tucker doesn't hit anything, so that's not even realistic. But what I'll say to Cole Tucker is, I don't think the glove plays as well as I think we even anticipated. So it's not even in that same stratosphere. It's not as if he's like this elite defender, where maybe even with poor offense, he could be okay, right? I don't think the glove's even that good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's average, honestly, as a shortstop. Really, it's not bad, right? He's a terrible outfielder, just absolutely terrible
well,
outfielder. Which is where he's gotten the bulk of his playing time. I think if we had maybe seen him more in the infield, you could, because I mean, his numbers, actually, his defensive numbers are pretty damn good in the infield. They're not Key Brian Hayes level defensive numbers, right? But I agree with your premise there, though. Like, the defense isn't so good that you can tolerate a terrible bat.
Yeah. And I just let me just preference something to him and make sure I clear this up. When I say I'm not saying his glove is not good. I just want to make sure I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not as good as Correct. I think we were saying and hoping for. And right. So
he's not a Gold Glover.
I don't want to hear people saying like, "Oh, Anthony DiNardo thinks Cole Tucker has a terrible defense and glove." That's not what I'm saying. It's just not as good when I say that.
But I think what you're trying to say here is like the glove isn't so good that you can tolerate having just an absolutely automatic out almost on offense. Excuse me. The 10-game stretch means absolutely nothing. Like,
thank you.
It means literally nothing. I don't know how many times in baseball you have to stress small sample size things, right? Because there are small sample sizes that skew to one side, and there's small sample sizes that skew to the other side. You want to avoid small sample sizes, and you want to take all of the small samples until you have a big sample, right? And the big sample suggests that Cole Tucker sucks. So
Right.
there's really just no other way to put it. He has a 56 career weighted runs created plus. He has a career 214 batting average. He gets on base 268, 318 slugging. He's a terrible hitter at the major league level. And again, he's 24, right? 25 actually now. But like, you haven't seen any improvement, right? Like, I get he made the majors when he was 22, right? So he made the majors at a young age, but like, we haven't seen any development at all since his debut. I mean, you could say the best he's ever looked was that first game he got called up. That was probably the best Cole Tucker I've ever seen, was his major league debut. I haven't seen that since.
That's fair.
And so it's like, what do we even? I get playing him, right? Because you mentioned Alford. Like, I get just putting him out there, right? At this point in the year, but in no way is Cole Tucker a part of this team's future.
No, like there's too many 40-man options. There's too. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll continue. There's just too many options that, like, I don't look at Cole Tucker and say by any means, whether it was, him coming up this whole year, his whole body of work that he's had, that says I need to protect Cole Tucker. We're past that. And there's also no ties that I think Ben Cherington needs to say it. Like, if Neil Huntington was here, maybe he would be hanging on to it still. Like, he's got some validation. I got to hang on. I'm telling you, there's something in Cole Tucker. I got to keep him for one more year. Ben doesn't have that. He doesn't have that attachment. He sees what he sees, and I hope he's seeing what I'm seeing, and I guess what you're seeing, because I'm not seeing a major leaguer, not on a winning club, and that's the goal here. Like, this year was to start separating who's going to be on next year. Cole Tucker, give him the shot. Give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. You want to work on something? You held him back down in instructionals like this to work on your swing and change things. Came to AAA, you saw nothing. You saw a very much increased walk rate. Good on him, but nothing else was there. Again, he just showed that he can't hit a baseball. And he's coming to the major leagues and shown he can't hit a baseball. So what am I keeping for next year? And now I'll bring this into Anthony Alford as well. Like, with this season, I felt like let's take some risks. Let's see some guys like Guy Tom, like Anthony Alford jumps in there too. Think about Alford he was a top prospect, which, by the way, let's go to this list. Let's scroll down. He was the number 97 prospect in 2015, Anthony Alford.
So he would have been penciled in all your starting lineups.
Exactly. He was the starting center fielder at that point in time. Anthony Alford, all the tools. He's going to be, what light would he be at that point? Would he be Andrew McCutchen light in 2015? Is that, that's kind of the timeline. Acuna, McCutchen back then. Yeah. So there you go. There's Kutch light. You got Kutch in center field. You got Kutch, I guess, light in left field. And Marte. I mean, and then Polanco coming up.
It's a dream outfield right there.
So anyways, like with those guys, you bring them in to see what they have. Do you make the decision of they trade chip or to keep? And I'm sorry, like with Anthony Alford, I understand, and you might even say this, the roles might switch here. I might be a little more pessimistic about this than you at this point in time. But like what I've seen from Anthony Alford, I'm over it too. And this isn't to say he's a terrible. He might be a major leaguer. But like where I'm at, the point I'm at is I've seen enough of him. We have to do better. Like, that's not the goal. The goal isn't to have Cole Tuckers and Anthony Alfords on this team anymore. I've seen Anthony Alford. I'm moving on. He might end up being an average major league player. He might. Like, to me, that's his ceiling. I'm moving on. We got to do better. I'm not protecting Anthony Alford Jr. I'm not protecting Cole Tucker. I'm just not doing it. You got to do better than that.
This is going to be really weird.
I know it is, because I sensed your tone in our text back and forth a little bit.
Because when it comes with Alford, since his call up, he's actually hit pretty well. 113 weighted runs created plus. He's still striking out way too much. So that's still an issue there. But like he hasn't been bad. So I think I'm to the point with Alford. I think you at least bring him back next year and let him compete for a roster spot. Now, I do think, he's not a starter, right? Like you can't roll with Anthony Alford in a starting spot. But I think Anthony Alford has deserved a chance to make the team next year out of spring training. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's shown huge stretch, but it's been a decent stretch of time now since he's been called up. And yeah, there's some days where he looks completely overmatched and he goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, right? But for the most part, he's been at least fine out there. He plays good defense too, which is another thing I like about him. I think he's shown me enough for me to at least give him a chance at being on the team next year. Which I can't believe I'm saying that, but he has. Because if you're looking at the other options, right? Like, and there's not a lot in the high minors who are going to like be major league ready next year, right? Because you could say Frazier, Mitchell, right? But they're not, like, realistically,
right, not.
None of those guys are they're not starting on the major league team, right? They're going to be in AAA, and then they'll likely be called up later in the year if they're performing well. So I'm talking like from like an opening day roster standpoint. I would not be totally like against the idea of Alford being on the roster. Now, I still think the Pirates need to go out there and acquire a corner outfielder who can actually hit the ball over the fence. Like, I think that's a priority. But at this point, Alford stays on the 40-man for me and gets invited to spring training and has a chance to compete for a spot on the 26-man roster.
That's where we differ. For me, he's not on the 40-man. To me, he's not. I can find Anthony Alford. I can find him. I'll do it.
That's fair.
Like,
fair.
I have other things I need to protect and worry about. And like as you mentioned, I would rather see them go out there and get something. I need better. I can't settle for, you know what? If this works out and that works out, he could be an average player. That's not the goal here. That's not what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah, he's had the 113 weighted run created plus. I'm with you, and I know other people will hammer us, but 38% strikeout rate. The high BABIP. Like, I understand people can't have a high BABIP. Tony Marte had a high BABIP. You're like, I understand it's not just, it's got to be 300. Like, if it's over 300, there's regression coming. I get it. Alfred's probably going to be one of those guys too. He hits the ball hard when he hits it, but I don't believe in him. I don't. I've seen enough. I don't believe in it. And to me, to protect him, I don't need to protect him. If he goes unclaimed, like, sure, do what you did this year. He can still be in the organization. I'm cool with that. He could end up being that type of depth. I'm cool with that. But I'm not going to protect Anthony Alford the same way I'm not going to protect Cole Tucker. That's just where I'm at. And I understand he's, to me, more borderline than Cole Tucker, which is kind of funny and ironic. But I'll put it this way. If there was two and I had to protect one, I would protect Anthony Alford, if that makes you happy. If I had to pick one, it would be Alford over Cole Tucker. But I'm not doing either. To me, that's not the goal here. Let's move past them. That's what free agency's for. It's a corner guy you need. Reynolds in center field. Go get someone who's going to be better.
And I think I'm fine with that too. And I would prefer them to go and get somebody better. I don't know if they're going to do that. Like I said, under no circumstances should Anthony Alford be starting more than 30 games in a major league season, right? So I'm not saying this guy needs like regular playing time, but I think he has shown enough value defensively to be late inning replacement. He's shown enough value that he does hit the ball hard when he hits the ball, that, you know, like a fifth outfielder spot, you could do worse. I guess that's where I'm at. Now, to the point of protecting him, you make a good point there. Like if there's somebody where it comes down to, I mean, it really depends on kind of who we're talking about here. But if it comes down to protecting, gosh, I'm not even looking at the list here anymore. But
let me throw
if
something
it comes
out
down
there.
to protect,
And I don't know if I've made the decision yet, but what if it comes down to Hoy Park and Alford? Who are you protecting?
Probably Hoy Park, just because he's more versatile.
Okay. I think that speaks right there. Hoy Park might not get protected.
That's true. I have a feeling they're going to keep both on the floor. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because you're going to have to leave some people off, but I think you can figure out a way to make it so that maybe you're not losing more than one guy, you know, to this Rule 5 draft. You know, especially like the lower level guys, it's just hard to stow away those people on rosters. You know, especially if you're, say, a lower level. I mean, even pitchers to a point. Like,
I think pitchers is the hardest.
I mean, how many?
Yeah,
it's
like what the Pirates did with Oviedo this year is almost impossible.
Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, you basically have a relief pitcher on your roster that is unusable. I mean, the Pirates clearly didn't think Oviedo was capable of throwing in Major League Baseball.
I know, right?
He hasn't. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't pitched in like 20 days, and then they just put him on the IL just cause. So that's going to be something that'll be interesting to see kind of who they pick and choose. There are going to be quite a few people to protect, though. I feel like the people who are probably going to be the easiest to pluck are like the middle infielders who you can probably use as like utility guys all around the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like an Escato type guy, right? Like that's somebody who, as another team, because I think Escato is Rule 5 eligible. It could be, not Escato, but Diego Castillo.
Yeah.
So Diego Castillo, for example, Rule 5 eligible. That's somebody who a team would maybe take a flyer on. Hey, he can play all over the field. He's got some talent. Let's see what we can do here, right?
I'm protecting him at all costs.
Right. And same thing with like Rodolfo Castro last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those types of guys where they've got some versatility, they've shown that they've got some pop. Those are the guys that are probably the most at risk, right? So you got to think that he's protected, right? But the Pirates have a lot of other guys too that I don't think they need to protect. I mean, like Jared Oliva at this point, probably gone, right?
He's an Alfred boat. You need to do better.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen as much from him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people on this Major League roster who don't need to come back. So I think the Pirates have enough room that they can make for some of these guys. It is going to be interesting though. But yeah, so if it comes down to like they need to DFA Alford to put Cal Mitchell on the 40-man roster, then that's something that you do, right? I mean, I don't know if they're going to have to make that decision.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly okay. He's gone. Prospects 20 through 30. Alex Bregman, Austin Meadows, Jose De Leon, Jose Peraza, Manuel Margot, Bradley Zimmer, Jesse Winker, John Gray, Gleyber Torres, Ozzy Albies. 1 through 30. I'm sorry, 20 through 30 right there. Again, perspective. All right. So that's kind of a lot of my grudges that I've been seeing. There's been other little small ones, but I think that's the major one. That's the stuff I'm really, really seeing out there. We got to stop it, guys. We got to stop it. Was there anything else that you had and wanted to bring up and talk about?
I think we covered most of it. Like, I don't really want to like bitch and complain too much, but yeah, there's, like I said, just a lot of people just at each other's necks on Twitter, and I'm just like, I don't really want to be part of this anymore. Like, just the season's almost over. So let's just get through this next week. Then we can get to the off season where we can then start having arguments about 40-man roster. So
right.
that'd be fun. And I think once we get to the 40-man roster decisions, you'll have anybody who gets DFA'd probably won't have any issues with it. There's going to be some people left off the 40-man where people will be like, I probably would have found a way to get him on there.
Which is why Alfred shouldn't.
And then we'll find out at the Rule 5 draft as far as if it's bad or not. I forget which Rule 5 draft it was back when the Pirates were abysmal, but like 4 out of the first 5 picks were Pirates, and it's like, what in the world is happening here? I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but they do have a lot of people that they need to protect, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that they do protect. With that being said, the more people you protect, then maybe gives you a little bit less leeway to sign free agents over the offseason, which I want them to do that too. Like I need them to go out there, and the 2022 Pirates have to be better than the 2021 Pirates. Like, they have to be better. They've got to be more watchable. They have to show some sort of improvement next year, or like, I don't know if I can take another season of them just being just terrible. It's going to be so frustrating to watch. We need to start seeing something next year.
You are correct. All right. That's pretty much most of the stuff I have as well. So again, like I think overall, big picture, you can be optimist. That's perfectly fine. It's great. Like I am too with this. And I think it's funny too, coming on the heels of we graded Charrington and pretty much gave him a C for this overall rebuild. But even with that said, like trade for trade, they might not have all been the best, but big picture, there's definitely a lot of talent, and that's where this organization comes in. Like, that's what's to be optimistic about. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of gaps that will need to be filled, right? And there's a lot of things in the minors right now that could possibly do it. So one of those things that could fill some gaps here is Roansy Contreras. There's a big gap to fill in this big team's starting pitching, and Roansy hopefully will. And we're going to see it today. So one thing I wanted to bring up just first was the shock factor. I'm kind of blown away that he got the call. I was not expecting this at all. You?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I will say, I think I even said earlier in the year that we could see him this year.
Oh, here we go. Yes, Jim. Let me praise you. Oh my God, Jim Rosati. Y'all said 54 wins, dummy.
That is true. I did say though that we could see Contreras this year, and the reason for that is because he's on the 40-man, right? So it just makes it easy for them to bring him up because they don't have to DFA somebody,
right?
But no, I am incredibly excited. From a shock factor, yeah, I wasn't expecting this in the last 5 days of the season. I didn't think that was going to happen. So I was very surprised when I saw yesterday that he was being called up. It's only going to be one start, right? Like he's going to get one start this year. He's going to be on a pitch limit too. I mean, he's really has, ever since he came off that injury, he really hasn't gone more than 4 innings in a game. So we're probably looking at like a 3 or 4 inning start, I think, best case scenario today. Hopefully, it's more on the 4 side than the 3 side, and hopefully we get to see some really exciting stuff. But he continues to be electric. He's striking out batters at a really, really great clip. He had 1 AAA start, did the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I am excited and I'm ready to see this. And like you mentioned, this is really, I said, there's a lot to be optimistic about. because of all the talent that's in the system. And this is really the first guy, right? I mean, this is the first prospect that we're actually excited about to make their major league debut, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be watching tonight. Hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully he looks good.
Yes, well, of course. But that's the thing too. Like, I'm just so excited because of exactly what you said. It is like this is it. You expected that wave to come next year. Like, you're going to see Cruz next year. Like, there's going to be a plethora of players you're going to see, and that's what makes next year exciting, right? Because you're going to start seeing these guys. But here's the first taste. We finally get it, and at the point where games are just unwatchable, right? There's no point to watch any game. It's uninspiring baseball. Here is a moment where you can actually watch Pirates baseball when it's almost October and be excited. It's because of Roansy Contreras. So yes, there's excitement in that sense of it. And I look at this too. I mean, I don't think this is totally an indictment of like the Pirates saying, let's call him up. He's here to be a Pittsburgh Pirate. You know, I think one of it is, of course, that they need some arms. Like, there's no one really left to pitch. It's been, I mean, Sam Howard got the air quotes start a few days ago because of that, right? So there's really nothing left in the cupboard to pitch. So that helps him. But I also kind of feel as if this is like the little kudos. You know, you've had a fantastic year. Here's a little reward. Here's a little carrot for you at the end. It's a meaningless game. We need someone anyways. Have a start, big guy. Congratulations. Head in the offseason feeling good. You're going to battle. You're not going to make it. We know we're going to tell you have a chance to make it, but we know you're not going to make it next year. They'll crack this rotation. But like, here's a little carrot. Here's a nugget. Give yourself a little boost. Head into the offseason with that mentality. And then, you know, March 27th will tell you, no, sorry, kid. But I like this. I like it for him, like for the organization, like, for all those reasons. I think it's you deserve this. Go make your debut.
Right. And from a service time standpoint, it doesn't really affect much, right? I mean, you're not really, I mean, it's technically starting his clock, but we're talking about so little amount of time here. Because I mean, you could just option him right after the start too. He gets 1 day of service time.
Right.
And then you don't need to worry about that next year when it becomes time to call him up. I do think he has the potential to be a pretty early season call up next year, as long as he has a good off season, because you know he's going to probably go to one of the fall leagues, I would imagine.
Makes sense.
So yeah, so you've got him pitching in the fall leagues. You've got him he's